All right, if you haven't tried working the next, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 problems. You might want to do that. It's really good practice for the Module 7 test because I think I put 4 parallel and perpendicular problems on it. So otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. So are these lines perpendicular? I hope you realize that you cannot tell that at this point. Neither equation is solved for y, so even though this looks like a simple little problem, it has quite a bit of work to do. So I have to get y alone in this equation and y alone on this equation. So to get y alone here, I need to do the opposite to move everything to the other side. So this is positive 3x, so I do minus 3x, and then I put minus 3x out here, not underneath the 5 because they're not like terms. And I get negative 2y equals, and remember, rearrange the order, this is a negative 3x, and there's no sign in front of 5, so that means positive 5. Then I have to divide everything by negative 2 to get y isolated. Be careful with your signs on this next step. So that leaves me with y equals 2 divided by 2 is 1y. Remember, double negative, positive, so that's 3 over 2x. And then a positive divided by a negative is negative 5 halves. Or you could write negative 2 1/2, either way. Okay, so let's go ahead and circle the slope, because remember, those are what we're going to be comparing to decide whether they're parallel or perpendicular. So now let's do the second equation. So 6x plus 4y equals 3. We need to get y alone. So we're going to subtract 6x, subtract 6x. I'm just going to put the work over here. So that leaves us with 4y equals, this cancels. So rearranging the order, we have a negative 6x and a positive 3. Divide everything by 4. Remember, don't skip any terms. And one thing I noticed, because a couple people have already taken this quiz, is they forgot to simplify and then they didn't compare the right numbers. So make sure you simplify every single fraction in the problem. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So we get 1y equals, notice these are both divisible by 2, so divide by 2, divide by 2. A negative divided by a positive is negative 3 over 2x plus 3/4. Okay, so now's the moment. Look at your two slopes. So we're supposed to answer the question, are they perpendicular? What do you think? They are not, because remember, two things have to be true. They have to have opposite signs, which they do, but they also have to be reciprocals, which they are not. So this would be false. So yes, they are opposites, but they're not reciprocals, and both things have to be true. Okay, next, which of the following lines is perpendicular to the line passing through these points? Well, the first thing that should go through your mind is, in order to know if they're perpendicular, I have to compare their slopes. Well, I see the slope here, I see the slope here, I see this slope, I see this slope, but I don't know the slope of those two. So that should be my number one goal, is find the slope. So second y minus the first y, so 2 minus 3 over second x, 5, minus the first x, 1. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. So if they said find the line that's parallel, I would pick this one. But this says find the line that's perpendicular. So that means I have to change the sign. So positive and reciprocate. So positive 4. And that's going to leave us with B. So let's check these first problems. So C, B, C, B, B. C, B, C, B, B. Good to go. So the opposite and reciprocal of that would be positive 4, which leaves us with B. Okay, let's take a look at the last page. So number 6, the lines of these two equations are perpendicular. Well, we can't tell until they're both solved for y. This one's solved for y, so we have that slope. Now we need to solve this one for y. So negative 1x, negative 1x, because we have to get y alone, so we do the opposite. So 1x minus 1x is 0, and we get 4y equals negative 1x positive 16. So we keep the signs with each one. So the x is negative, the 16 is positive. Then we divide everything by 4, and we get y equals negative 1/4 x plus 4. So now we look at the slopes. So this slope is 4. This slope is negative 1/4. Are they perpendicular? Which means opposites and reciprocals, positive, negative. 4 over 1, 1 over 4. Boom, that would be true. So 6A is true. Or 6 is A, which is true. Here we go. Determine the slope of the line perpendicular. So do you guys recognize this as point slope form? If you don't, that's okay, because guess what you can do? You can do this. So y plus 2 equals 1/5 x. And when you type in your calculator 1/5 times negative 6, you'd get negative 1 1/5. It's negative 6/5 or negative 1 1/5. So here's my slope. Whoop, I didn't subtract 2. I will subtract 2. Still going to have the same slope, but 1/5 x minus 3 1/5. So maybe I should go over this on the calculator just so everybody's comfortable. So I don't want to like throw something out there and have you not understand where I got it. So 1/5 times x obviously is 1/5 x. 1 fraction bar 5 times negative 6. Oops. Oh, I did subtract 6. See how the calculator did that? Let me go back and do it wrong again. So I accidentally hit subtraction. So when it gives you the error message, hit clear, and it highlights where your error was made. So I knew right away, oh, I accidentally put subtraction. I need negative. So I type over it, boom, it gives it to me. Isn't this calculator like amazing? I mean, it highlights where you made your mistake to let you know. So you just hit clear, and then it will beep, blink right on top of your error. And then we subtracted 2, so minus 2, and you can see my negative 3 1/5. Okay, so back to the slope. So this slope is 1/5. And yes, I left the door open again, sorry. The big snore hog in here. So line perpendicular. So I need it to be opposite, negative, because this one's positive, and reciprocal, which would be 5 over 1 or 5. So negative 5 is my slope of my perpendicular line. Nice, huh? These are pretty fun stuff, aren't they? Which of the following lines is perpendicular to this line? So lots of work to do on this again. So we got to solve this one for y, 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 until we find the right slope. If we find the right slope earlier, we don't have to solve them all, because it just says, well, it didn't say we couldn't pick more than one, but so far that's been the case. So okay, so let's find the slope of this line. So to find the slope, remember we have to put it in y equals mx plus b form. Should be your first step every time, is solve for y to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So 2y equals negative 8x and a positive 4. Divide everything by 2, and we get y equals negative 4x plus 2. So if it's going to be perpendicular, we need to find a line that has slope of what? M equals, change the sign, positive, reciprocate 4 over 1, and we get 1 over 4. So we need to solve each of these down the line until we find that slope. Once we find that slope, we can stop. So let's start with the first one. No better place to start, right? So to get this one, y alone, because we can't tell the slope until y is alone, we subtract 2x, because we have to do the opposite anytime we're crossing the equal sign. So we end up with negative 8y equals negative 2x and negative 16. Divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8. Keep impinging on the next problem. So 2 negatives positive, 2 negatives positive, 2 negatives positive. I kind of like to do the signs ahead of time so I don't rush through and miss a sign. So that's going to be 1y equals, oops, look at that one. There's a 2 common, so we need to divide both of those by 2. Remember, don't forget to simplify every single part of the equation. Otherwise, you're going to miss if they're parallel or perpendicular, because you won't see that the slopes are the same or opposite reciprocals. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4x. 16 divided by 8 is plus 2. Does it have the correct slope? Ding, 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 ding. Yes! So we only have to do one. That would have taken forever to solve all 5 of them. The first one plus all 4 of those. So how nice were they to make it letter A? So this one has a slope of negative 4 over 1. This one has a slope of positive 1 over 4. Therefore, they are the perpendicular ones. Thank you for doing that for us. That was nice. Okay, next. This is going to make you think a little bit, this next one. So first off, we have to think about this. What's the slope of this line? So remember when I said when a letter's missing, it has to be our special case, x equals or y equals? See how this given line only has one variable, so that tells me it's either horizontal or it's vertical. This tells me it only goes through the x-axis at negative 2, so that means it is vertical. So anytime I see a special case, I go straight to the graph, because everything can be read from the graph. So what is the slope of a vertical line? Is there any skiing on that? No skiing. So this one's slope is undefined. And that's something you should have memorized by now. How to graph a vertical line, and that vertical lines have an undefined slope. But that's not what the question's asking. It's asking us what's the slope of a line perpendicular. So a line that is perpendicular would be a horizontal line. So what's the slope of a horizontal line? 0 fun. m equals 0. So that will be our answer for